NJ on the solo.
City of Angels has been around for about 3 years now, and our mission is to help those who are looking to get into treatment, help facilitate that, and also to help their families. 24 hours a day, someone will answer the phone, and we'll either set up an intervention or some sort of a family meeting if people are interested in that. Sometimes people just want to come to the organization to find out what services that we provide prior to getting their loved one help. Sometimes we get the individual themselves who will look for exactly what their needs are. If they have insurance, if they don't have insurance, we kind of will filter through that to find out where the best placement is for them. Sometimes that's locally, sometimes it's not. But we found that getting into treatment is actually the easy part. Once an individual decides that they want to go into treatment, what we find is the difficult part is the services provided for when someone gets out of treatment. So we have set up a lot of things for them. We have something going on at our office every night. I think every night of the week. We either have NA meetings or AA meetings. We have family services meetings, spiritual meetings, some counseling services that we provide. All our services are free of charge. We don't charge anything for the family services is a big component that we've been starting to, because I'm sure you know, if you look at the statistics, if the family gets involved with the recovery process, the statistics are that the person's ability to get help kind of shoots up than if somebody's going through this alone. So we've developed a family service program now that meets on Tuesdays and Thursdays for about 2 hours, and it's for the family, not for the person who has the addiction. And it kind of really goes through like the enabling and what you can do to help and not enable, and kind of shows the difference between those.
What we'd like to see is to have something going 24 hours a day. When I first came into recovery, I used to go to Princeton, and they had what they called a 24 club. There was 24-hour meetings there, so you can go there as an addict or an alcoholic and sit there and hang out and watch TV and drink coffee like we all do, but it was somewhere safe to go 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and that's what we were hoping to bring to the table for Hamilton Township here. You know.
We also provide other services, like we try to have a family dinner once every 3 months. I would love it to be once a month. One day we'll get there. A lot of our kids, and a lot of our kids are not kids, but they're all our kids, never had a family dinner, and it's an opportunity also for the board and the business and the kids all to be together, because you know a lot of those members are not together at the meeting, so it gives us an opportunity to all see one another and see how we all come
together. They come out, they want to get clean, they go to treatment, they come out and they got all these court, which they, they broke the law. We're not saying they don't deserve to face the consequences, but going to prison is not the thing that they need. They need help first. So what we do is we do write letters. We do work with the probation officers. We work with the courts. We work with the bail bondsmen. What we do is we write letters to them explaining what we can do for the person, and we're not telling them, asking them to drop the charges. What we're asking is to postpone everything until they get the treatment they need, because when they do come out of treatment and they got a clear mind, they can think a little better, and it does help them. I mean, they still got to go through their legal issues, and up till now, they've worked with us pretty good. We've had a couple that wouldn't let them leave New Jersey, and sometimes we send a lot of our kids out of state, but that's been the only problem we've had. Is just some of them where they won't let it go out of New Jersey, But the kids come back, and then what they do is, when they do go to treatment and they got the drugs out of their system and they got a clear mind, they face the consequences, and they accept it a little more than they would be when next thing you know they're running the streets and they don't want to deal with it. What happens when you're running from the law? You're going to stay high or drinking or in trouble. I got to watch Katie start, come around, and then she and I'll let her tell her what happened, but she had a couple relapses, and the most rewarding thing with City of Angels for myself personally is seeing the growth. Is seeing them come in and banged up and hurt, and then all of a sudden they just start to blossom like that flower, and then they start wanting to help and give back. So, go ahead, Katie.
So I'm Katie. I started using when I was 10 years old. My stepfather had passed away, and my biological father got out of prison and moved in with us, and I wanted to numb the pain, so I started stealing the alcohol and my mother's cigarettes, and that's how I got started. And then when things would run out, I would run to the older crowd who I knew was smoking pot and doing other things, and I would hang out with them and be like, oh, you're so cool, can I hang out with you? And I started experimenting with the pot and the alcohol with them, and things got a little out of control, to where I was using cocaine at the age of like 12. And none of my family knew about it. I was also, after my father was removed from the home, my mother's boyfriend moved in, and I was molested by her boyfriend. And nobody knew about it for a while. So it went on, and eventually it came out, and I was removed from the home and sent to live with my aunt and uncle, this broken person using drugs. And as we know, you take yourself wherever you go. So I found drugs where I was, and I took my aunt and uncle and made them prisoners in their own home, and they had a son to worry about. And they kept trying to help me, and I didn't want it. I didn't know how to be helped. I was so broken. I had so much stuff that I'd buried, and so much stuff that like I was still doing to get outside of myself, even in a treatment facility that I wasn't ready to face. And I started to make progress, and I wasn't ready to come home, but I knew I was ready to leave there at that point. I graduated high school. I actually did an extra year of high school because I was stuck there. And I had said to them I was not ready to come home to New Jersey, but my aunt and uncle wouldn't take me back because I had made them a prisoner and almost tore apart their marriage. And I didn't blame them. So I had nowhere else to come but back home, and I moved in with my grandmother at that time. And I started going to Mercer County College, and I had to face people in places that I was not ready to face. So, of course, my natural instinct was to get outside myself. And there was nobody stopping me this time. So, of course, I ran back to the drugs and the alcohol. And it escalated to even more than what it was before I had left when I was a young kid. I was using heroin, I was using crack, I was using alcohol. I mean, there's been many times where I probably should have been taken to the hospital, but friends are so scared of, oh my gosh, I'm going to get in trouble, that they just leave you there. And so, I mean, it's a miracle that I'm not dead. And nobody knew about it. I mean, I appeared functional to my family. I appeared fixed, as Red says. Like, they expected me that I was fixed, like, but I wasn't. I basically worked 2 jobs and went to school and used all my money to get high. And when I moved back and forth, when I thought I was going to get caught, I moved from my grandmother's house to my mom's house, like to try to manipulate around the situation. And finally my mom caught me stealing her pills, and I got into a huge fight and moved back in with my grandmother. And then we got into a huge fight about it, so I moved back in with my mother. And it got to a point last year, this time actually, where I was so deep into my addiction that I had taken off. Like, I was going to school, I was driving, and I probably could not tell you how I got from point A to point B in my car. And I was running out of money, I was starting to sell my body, and I'm only 21 now. And my grandmother would call me because she is linked to my bank account, and it was saying, where's all your money going? And I was like, I'll call you back. I was just avoiding the situation. And they knew, they thought I was at a friend's house, but I wasn't. I was living in a crack house and going to school. And finally, I was so messed up one night that I finally, when my grandmother called me asking me where my money was, I said, Grandma, I'm high. And but I wouldn't come home. They were out looking for me. My boyfriend was out looking for me. Friends were out looking for me. And my grandmother found City of Angels, and that's probably where she kept her sanity the most. And she was going to meetings for herself. My mom was sitting by the phone, a wreck, in case she got a phone call from me or from somebody else. And eventually my boyfriend tracked me down and brought me home. I went to the hospital, and the next day I went to rehab. But I got 13 days. 13 days is enough to detox me. And I came home, and I was angry. And I didn't know how to work a program. Like, I didn't have enough time to learn how to work a program. I thought I did, and I had met people at meetings, and I was doing what I thought I was supposed to be doing. And my grandmother finally, that City of Angels had a fundraiser and was like, come, and I was like, no, it's at 8:30. But I went just to make her happy because she was gracious enough to allow me to come back into her home. And that's where I met Redneck and realized that some of the people I went to meetings with were involved with this organization. So I started coming around more and more to City of Angels, and I mean, I had relapses, and it was like I got 30 days in relapse, got 30 days relapse, and eventually I pulled together 60 days, and I went to a movie with somebody I probably should not have gone to a movie with, and we ended up getting really drunk at the movie theater, and I called Redneck of all people, and he came and got me, and I thank God for that because I don't know what I would have done otherwise. And we had another intervention for me. I went back to treatment for a week, and I chose to leave the state for a little while and go stay with some other family. And I don't know if it wasn't that I probably shouldn't have left the state, or if they just didn't know how to handle addiction. But it wasn't, I wasn't going to meetings. Like, I got 60 days and came home because we got into an argument. And meanwhile, while I was sober, I still had addict behaviors because I wasn't working a program. Like, I didn't know what I was supposed to be doing. Like, I wasn't changing. I was just me, but sober. And so I came home and really started to try to work a program, and I had one more relapse in June, and I got caught. I was trying to clean time when I wasn't because I regretted relapsing, but I was actually thankful that I got caught. And I started my clean time over and was honest about it, and after I got caught, and I realized that was the wrong thing to do now, but ever since then I've been sober. Like Christmas Eve I'll have 6 months clean, and I've been working a program, and you know, if it wasn't for City of Angels, I probably would be on the street dead right now, because all those relapses, like, my sponsor didn't know how to handle them, I didn't know how to handle them, and you know, it was the people there that have been through this, and the people with the most clean time, and people who have lost their loved ones, that really got through to me. And now I have a family with them, and we stay after meetings and play darts. Like, we know that whenever we need each other, we're always just a phone call away. Like, whenever somebody's having a bad day, we're always there for each other, and it's a wonderful thing, and I would not give that up.
Amber, and I remember when Amber walked in my driveway. This was I'm sorry, but this was a sick-looking girl. She was one of them that just looked at, I thought she's never going to make it. And I hate to say it that way, but I never thought she would make it, so I'll let Amber tell you the story.
I hate speaking because, like, I never know where to start. I'll actually start with something I've come to realize very recently. When I was 6, my mom was with my brother's father, and for 3 years, from 6 to 9, my brother's dad's cousin raped me. And I didn't really know, like, at the time, and even growing up, that had affected me as much as it has. And I'm just now, like, starting to come to terms with it. And I'm 23 now. And the way I coped with it when I was younger and in school and everything was I threw myself into everything I got involved in. Like, my all was in everything, like my schoolwork. And starting in middle school, I started to play softball. I played for 7 years, and I ended up being like an all-state pitcher. And in high school, I did 3 different dance teams. I did chorus teams. And then when I was 17, when I was a senior, I got pregnant with my daughter. And a lot of that had to end. So, like, I had a lot more time on my hands. I ended up graduating top of my class and had my daughter when I was 18. Me and her dad got married, and I kind of started the whole housewife thing at 18. And probably when I was 20 was when it kind of all started to fall apart. I wasn't ready for that. I was a mother, of course. Like, I was ready for that. I had no choice but to be. But me and her dad fell apart, and when I was 21, I started to date someone else, and I ended up getting pregnant again with my youngest daughter. And after I had her, throughout my pregnancy and everything, her father was very abusive to me. Even before I got pregnant, he had me in the hospital a couple of times. And after I had her, he put me back in the hospital on life support because he pushed me down the stairs and kind of beat the crap out of me. And, well, after I had my youngest daughter, I got very sick, and I didn't know why. And, like, I forgot to mention that all through high school and, like, my teenage years and everything, I never did drugs. I drank on occasion, but never did drugs. I was a jock. Like, we couldn't do that. Like, if you got caught, you were off the team. And after I had my youngest daughter, I got very sick, and I couldn't figure out why. I was running fevers. I was lethargic. Like, something was wrong, but I couldn't figure it out. I was in a lot of pain. And when I had my first daughter, it felt like after I had her, like, I had a lot of pressure in my stomach. Well, my second daughter was a C-section. I didn't know that you weren't supposed to feel that pressure. They didn't tell me that when I left the hospital. Well, that pressure ended up being a 3-liter abscess in my stomach, and I had to have major surgery. I was in surgery for 18 hours and died twice. Like, they said after I, like, came out and was in recovery and everything, they told me that if they had found it even an hour later, I wouldn't have made it. I was already septic. It had been growing for 3 weeks, and they said it was a wonder I didn't pass away at that point. But after I had my surgery, I ended up having an incision across my hips and up to my belly button. And after 31 days of being in the hospital after my surgery, I went home, and my incisions were 2 inches across and about 1.5 inches deep. And in the hospital, and even for about a month after I got home, I was on an at-home morphine drip and a Dilaudid drip, and I was getting Percocets, two 15-milligram Percocets every 4 hours. This was just to be able to even sit up. And I ended up getting addicted to the painkillers. And even after I wasn't really feeling pain anymore, I had convinced myself that I was hurting so bad that I could make myself cry and, like, go to the doctor and get another prescription. And eventually he caught on and cut me off, and at that point I was going on the streets to get it. And I lived in Ohio at the time, like, that's where I grew up, but I was born here. And my best friend growing up, she moved in after, like, I got cut off from my prescriptions, and she taught me how to get it on the street. She was actually addicted to heroin, but I was kind of, what's the word, hypocritical, because I was addicted to painkillers, but I told her in order to move in my house, you couldn't use heroin. My daughter's here. Like, I was a hypocrite, and I see that now, but I didn't at the time. But she ended up getting clean, and I was still using. And in January of this year, actually, me and her got into a big fight, and I kicked her out of my house, and she went with some questionable people, and she was, I don't know if she was trying to find drugs. I don't know exactly what was happening because I couldn't follow it. It was too much for me. But she ended up being murdered that night. And I couldn't take it, and I moved here, and when that happened, I wasn't using. Like, I tried to get clean, and I was doing okay. And I moved here, and in April, I found out that my father was not my father. He decided that since I lived here now, and I was 22, that it was a good time to get a DNA test. He was my dad my whole life, but it was a good time to get a DNA test. And we found out that he wasn't my dad, and he walked away. I haven't heard from him since then. And I ended up finding my real dad, but the trauma of finding out that my father wasn't my father, I relapsed. I relapsed for about 4 months. And I was what they like to call like a functioning addict. Like, I was still going to work, I was still paying my bills, I was still sending money to my daughter, who's with her father right now. But I was doing everything like I was supposed to, and then it came to a point where I stopped. I disappeared for 6 days. I wasn't going to work anymore. I wasn't doing anything anymore except for getting high. And I took off and went to Kansas. Got my car impounded, got arrested for a stolen car because my mom had my car in her name. I was gone for 6 days. She reported it stolen to find me. And so I got arrested for a stolen car. And then my cousin, her boyfriend actually does yard work for Redneck, and she got me hooked up with City of Angels. And ever since then, I just celebrated my 90 days. I've been clean. I can't say that I haven't thought about using, because I have. My mom, most of my family really isn't any part of my recovery. My mom actually, she kicked me out, well, she put her hands on me and then kicked me out of her house. And normally, like without City of Angels, I would have relapsed. I would have went and got high. But instead, I had the resources and the phone numbers and the people there, and I didn't. I found a place to go that's so much better for me now. Like, I see where I was with my mom, and like they use in the house and they drink in the house, and it's so much better where I'm at now. They didn't care that I was in recovery, that made me uncomfortable, that made it hard for me. It didn't matter. They wanted to do what they wanted to do. But now, like I said, I'm in a much better place, and City of Angels has kept me sane for the most part. I work 2 jobs now, and I'm working towards getting a car again, and City of Angels is actually helping me get my daughter back because she's with her father, like I had said previously. And my youngest daughter, that's more of a complex situation because I actually lost her completely, because after having her was when my addiction started. And she's been closed adopted, but I know where she is, I know who she's with, so I have options to at least try. And Kevin is setting up a lot of things for me to go back and get her, and I know I'll get her. It's just going to be a matter of time. There's a lot of people behind me, and I'm a much different person now because of City of Angels. Like, just like she said, if it wasn't for them, I'd probably be dead at this point.
But seeing the young girls and the young boys that we deal with, and seeing them stand up and be able to tell their story and be able to still go through normal life stuff that we all go through, and the stress and all the problems, and they're not going back and getting high. They're actually taking the suggestions and they're using the tools that City of Angels are teaching them. It's like, it's like when you go watch your kid, star cheerleader or football player. This is my excitement, is when we get to watch these kids grow into the young women and the young men that they didn't get a chance to do because of this addiction. So places like City of Angels, and I know there's other organizations through the United States, but right here in Hamilton Township, to me, it's City of Angels. And this is a fight that, some nights you wonder if we're even doing anything. Being able to come to places like this and watching the kids speak and tell their stories and letting people understand that this is something out there that's killing our kids. I mean, it's worse than anything else that I've ever seen, But we want to thank you guys for allowing us to come out here, and if anything, just keep praying for these kids and keep moving on, because this is our future. You know, if you meet them when they first come in, you get a little scared because it don't look too good. But when we see them turning what they're doing now, then it gives us a little